Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dualta, and in this podcast series, I will be speaking to investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world, and we will be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. This afternoon, I am bringing you to Paris. We are speaking to Nicolas Greppo. He runs his own independent recruitment firm that is now fully retained. And we had a good chat to how he got to this point. Really good business. He does data science. It's him and his wife, and he's probably going to hire some other people in the future. But for now, he's relying on creating more partnerships with people in the marketplace that do similar things in order to increase his revenue. He's on a mission to build $1 million, and he walked me through his process from getting into recruitment in Dubai, actually, where he learnt his trade, to before he set up his recruitment business. He got Roy Ripper involved, went through his training courses, and used that as a model to get himself up and running and profitable. And then he's gone and used some other training courses to get to the next stage. So really, really interesting guy. It was nice to get to speak to somebody in Paris, figure out a bit of that marketplace, and I hope you all enjoy. Remember, you don't need to hire lots of people to make lots of money. We're in a different world now, and these people are all proving it. So happy hunting. Enjoy. Over to Nicolas. Nicolas.
Yes, Jota, how are you?
Very good, very good. Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast.
Thank you.
The first Frenchman we have on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I can't speak French, unfortunately, even though I lived in Belgium for a number of years.
Uh-huh.
Us,
Well,
us Anglophones, we're just not as good at picking up the other languages.
We're not good at all as well, huh? So I try to speak in English, but
all right.
I can guarantee I will get rid of my accent.
Well, maybe by the end I'll be speaking English in a French accent. All right, Nicolas. So we first came in contact because you listened to the episode I did with Joe Mullings. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
Well, what did you enjoy about listening to Joe?
So many things. I mean, this guy, he knows the industry inside out, right? And I think he is really shifting it with the digital marketing and what he's doing with his internal agency. So I think it was plenty of lessons, you know.
Yeah, I suppose for anybody who hasn't listened to that episode, they could jump back and have a listen. But in recap, Joe's agency make around 9 million a year, and there's only 20 people in it. Out of those, I think there's 20 billers. I'm not too sure. I can't remember the exact figures. But for every head count that he puts in now, he usually has a digital marketer as well. So he's not just adding head count to add salespeople. He's building his whole business around he's building his whole digital internal team around creating sales monsters out of his own existing boutique staff. Wasn't that kind of the general gist from it?
Yeah, that's it. And I think the system that he put in place is such a catalyst. You know, as he says, you know, you have the A calls, the B calls, the C calls, and so basically, if instead of doing 50% of cold calls, you're doing 80% of A calls, meaning warm calls, people who know you, have heard of you. Of course, at the end of the day, you're going to close more business and have a higher revenue per capita. You know, so it's mathematics. So
yeah, and I don't think he's fully formed the solution just yet. There's another guy called Steve Lortz, and I've been on his show, Recruiter Fuel, and he runs, I don't know, it's a $50 million search firm. It's massive anyway. And they run all that through analytics and then do all the paid ads, everything from finding the people to making sure that they're the right people. It's all done with the help of software to helping them get through their first year. And yeah, he's done the whole solution. He's almost done what Joe's done on a bigger scale. But I think
Mm,
Joe has a real flair for marketing and
yeah.
presentation, right? Like he's a cool guy.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, the agencies or the search firms who do not take that dynamic, they will get left behind. I'm sure about that, So,
Yeah, it's interesting that like I feel like a lot of people say that, but they're not really investing into it. When they look at their
mhm.
strategic plan. Um, I think you're probably around my age, but you had a recruitment wasn't your first career. You were in tech sales first, is that right?
Yeah, I was an engineer even at the beginning
Oh,
for
right, okay.
yeah, and yeah, but most of my career was around recruitment indeed. Yeah.
So how did you get into recruitment? Where was it?
Well, so I studied engineering, but when I was doing my internships, I discovered sales. Actually, I discovered the phone, the telemarketing through my internships,
Hmm.
and I already knew I wanted to sell. Okay, and I knew I was good on the phone basically. So I started as an engineer because I said, okay, I graduated from engineering school. Let's try.
Yeah.
But so just 1 year in this engineering consulting company called Altran, I was promoted as a manager, and that's where I started to recruit other engineers. So I started to recruit in 2007. So I wasn't a headhunter at that time, but I was recruiting for my team. And then a few years later, I was introduced to the founders of an executive search firm called Nails International, and they were looking for a very sales, entrepreneurial, minded individual to develop the Middle East subsidiary in Dubai. And so, I went there for a week, loved the place, and that's when I started in 2012.
Oh, cool. So you started your first recruitment job in Dubai.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What was that like for a Frenchman? Was there many cultural differences? Like, how was your English at the time?
It was about the same as today.
Okay, very
So,
good.
but the thing is, actually, it's a very good question because the thing is, there's a lot of competition there. And being a native speaker in either English or Arabic is a big advantage, and
Yeah.
I'm none of them. So my niche really was the French ecosystem. So I was targeting the French Business Council, the French companies, the French decision makers, etc. And that made a big difference because I was one of the only, one of the rare French speakers in that area, and it worked very well.
Yeah, very good. So you were there for nearly 4 years. What
Yeah.
did you like about life there?
It never stops, like 24/7 there's something going on. So many nationalities around, like, I think only 20% of people are local there. So many opportunities, professionally, and yeah, to discover those cultures, because I was in Dubai, but I was traveling in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and it was really very enriching personally, and I must say also financially.
Sure. So I'm presuming you're getting a bit of business from the French community there, but obviously you had to sell to the Arab community as well. What was it like? Like, was there anything that you learned culturally that like along the way that you would advise anybody who's thinking of going to Dubai?
Yeah, so many things, I mean, I think I would advise anybody going to Dubai to go through a cultural, training at the beginning, because, there's so many differences in how you approach locals, and the relation to time, for instance. How, they often say that in a 1 hour meeting, you're going to talk 80% of the time about personal things and 20% about business. But that's when you're going to sign that big contract.
Huh. Australia was a bit like that.
Was it? So yeah, yeah, I would say it's really important, especially when somebody's going abroad for the first time, to get ready for a kind of a shock, because it's really a different world, really.
And were you single there? Were you married? Like, what was it? Was it just you, or what was your personal circumstance?
So I was single,
Yeah.
and I actually met my wife there.
Oh, wow.
So, Yeah.
All right, very good. Um,
Yeah.
so all in all, was it a good financial move for you?
Yeah, very, very, because as a single guy there, you can really save a lot of money,
Yeah. Women
because when
ruined
you have a
that.
family. Sorry.
My wife ruined that.
Okay.
Yeah. She just spends money all the time.
So, but I think as a family, it's a bit more expensive because schools are expensive. Then a lot of things are expensive when you have family. But as a single guy, definitely you can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
Was it
yeah,
was it a big decision to move back to France and get back into life there?
it was indeed. But I always say to myself, I'm not gonna stay more than 5 years, because I think when you reach that threshold, you never come back.
Mm. Is your wife
So
French?
she's not actually. She's from the Philippines.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, so it was also tough because at the beginning I came back alone in Paris. She wasn't my wife at that time. We didn't get married in Dubai, and yeah, I came back for a weekend a few months after, asked her to marry me, and thank God she said yes, and and she followed me to Paris.
Oh, fantastic. So
Yeah,
back to Paris.
yeah,
You're a managing partner of a recruitment firm. Does that mean that you're one of the owners?
yeah. I'm the founder, and I'm the sole proprietor actually.
Okay, so is it just you?
It's me and my wife at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Um, I, I'm in the same boat.
Hmm.
Only I have a couple of assistants as well, but for the main
Okay.
part, that's I can relate to what you're up to. Um, so you're back. You decide to set up your own business. Um,
Mm.
was there any temptation to go get a job for somebody, or after you'd made such good money in Dubai, were you kind of like,
Mm.
maybe it is time to set up my own business? Like, what? How did that decision come about?
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, that's it. I was in Dubai. I had been promoted as a partner of the business. I was the managing director there of the subsidiary at the end, and I said, okay, I can do it myself. So that's why I came back to Paris, actually, to set my own business. It took me a few months. I was considering a lot of options, going abroad or doing it in Paris, and to be actually, it's a fun. The thing is, at some point, I said to myself, okay, you know what? Let's. I'm not sure what I want to do. Let's find a job for the moment. And so I got that job in Paris, and actually it lasted, I think, for 2 days and a half.
Yeah.
Because I realized, I can do this myself.
Mm.
I have, obviously I saved some cash. I believe I have the skills, and so and that's how it started.
Okay, let's talk into your strategic plan. You've saved some
Hmm.
cash. Um,
Yeah.
we've your first thought is, I'm going to set up something. I'm going to get it profitable. Judging that you haven't scaled, you didn't go out and get funding or do any of that.
No.
So
No.
you obviously wanted to make a good lifestyle business. Um,
Mm.
how did you choose the discipline to go after? How did you map all of that out? What was your thought process at the start?
Mm. So at the start, so first, I mean, maybe to share with people listening who would like to start a business, I had 50 to 60,000 euros in the bank that I could use to start. Okay, for
Which
my
is
personal
a
expenses.
nice
And
buffer, hey?
it is, and it's. I think it's enough if you manage to close business after 3 to 6 months, because after that it becomes difficult, depending on your
Well,
personal
you
expenses, of
don't have
course.
a
But
double income either, so you're
no,
funding
no,
two people in Paris. Paris is not a cheap city, hey?
it's not. It's not at all. So that's it. So I would advise, if somebody starts a business, you have to have cash aside, because otherwise, you can run out of it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Number two is, I was really fortunate to meet Roy Ripper. I
Great.
know he's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did is, I came back from Dubai. As I said, I spent a few months, thinking what I'm going to do, and I wanted to level up my game as I was alone. And so I've done every single training program of Roy Ripper. You can name them. I've done them. And I said to myself, this guy is really good. And so I had the great opportunity to be coached by him one-on-one for 2 years, actually. The first 2 years of my business, he was my coach, right? And so he really so many insights, as to how to get the right strategy. And so, in a nutshell, what I did is I chose to be super niche. I chose a niche that is related to tech because this is where I come from, and a niche where I know there is a high demand, and that was the data scientist. Okay, so I really only worked on those positions in Paris. So I was super local, super niche, and I decided to enter the market contingent. I didn't say it, but in Dubai I was 100% retained, and I said to myself, okay, there's already competitors in place. I want to go fast. I need to generate cash fast. So I said contingent is the best way to do that. And the strategy was to use what we call the MPC calls, the most placeable candidates calls. Although I don't really like that term because I don't consider I place candidates, but but in any case, that's what I was doing. I was representing exclusively the top 10% of data scientists in Paris, basically. That's what I did. And by doing that, I cracked through the PSLs of so many large groups. Like I'm talking about the biggest banks here in France, the largest aerospatial group, this kind of large groups who have a lot of.
Were you just sending the resume? And were you having to like call up? Were you, like how were you going about that?
First, the thing is, I really met a lot of data scientists to make sure that I could identify the ones who are really good.
How did you meet them?
And then I had I called them. I sent them an email to LinkedIn. I went to meetups about data science. Every single channel that I could imagine. And I told them that I'm specialized. I'm a headhunter. I'm specialized in data science. Let's meet. That's all I did at the beginning. Like I didn't have any fake positions or anything. I just told them, let's meet. And then I told them that I have a process that consists in representing them to the companies that they dream to work for. I mean, it's too long to explain the whole process, but basically I really had something very systematic to go with them through what they really want to do, find the right companies and find the right pitch, how to introduce them in 30 seconds so that the hiring manager will want to meet them.
And you went through all of this with Roy, did you?
Yeah, definitely. And I also customized it to the French culture and the French language, obviously. But yeah, Roy was definitely instrumental in this process.
Yeah, great.
And and it worked. It worked really well. And that's how I started to generate. So my first deal, I think, was after 3 months. After 6 months, I was able to pay myself. After 9 months, I hired my wife. And after 12 months, I exceeded 120,000 euros revenue. So, and it worked thanks to the system. And then I decided after 1 year to go back to retail search because this is something I'm really which is very important for me. And now I only worked retail again.
Why is your website half in English, half in French?
It's not, you mean, because it's, good because I'm so local. There's so many things to do in Paris.
So is it all Paris-based stuff that you're doing, or because?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, at the moment it is because there's already enough to do here.
So you map out. Roy's probably giving you a system to map out all the different clients, like all the places where a data scientist could go, and then you choose which of those you want to work with. Based on just on that. I bet you over time that list has changed, and who you thought were good at the start aren't necessarily your favorite place to put people now.
True. Yeah. Of course, you learn by doing. So, but it was that's really how it worked. Yeah.
Really interesting. And when you look at your business now, you obviously, if you're interested in what Joe Mullings was saying, what is it about social media and that side of things that you think will impact recruitment in the future now? Like, what type of things will you be doing in your business to prepare for the future?
So I think,
has Roy got another course coming out?
Yeah, and actually he also gave me a lot of insights about that. But the I would say the video, I think, is a key media, and actually I've used it. I've created a channel dedicated to data scientists, where I'm giving them tips for the interviews, these kind of things, and that brought me a lot of candidates, and it also works very well when you are in front of a prospect and you tell them that you have a YouTube channel dedicated to data scientists, you really gain authority, in your niche. So I think this is number one. Number two, of course, LinkedIn is the free advertising platform for search consultants. So I post at least once a week a post that I write myself, either about my niche or about recruitment. And number three is I actually my project this year is to do a podcast with the probably chief data officers within my clients.
Wow. Okay, so you're on it.
Yeah.
You're copying my format. Very good. And what's the business culture like in France? I think the perspective of people outside of it is that France is kind of a difficult place to do business, and people are always on strike, and we have stereotypical views. But then I'm hearing that the recruitment market there is really good. So, maybe you could give us a little insight into that.
Yeah, sure. So, well, France. Well, first, I think it's better to speak French.
Yeah.
Because basically it's and even to understand the cultures and the little subtleties that there are. So that's one. Two is I agree, it's a great market for recruitment, because one of the reasons for that is written search is accepted by a lot of HR people or even managers. If I compare it to Dubai, which is a very contingent driven market, France is still quite okay with the written search. And yes, I agree. The difficulties is really linked to the labor law, because basically when you have a job in France, after the probation period, you are in a very secure place, and so people are less likely to change job. You really have to get a great opportunity in front of them for them to consider moving. And also, when they move, they have a 3 months notice period. Almost all of them.
3 months.
3 months.
In Belgium, you kind of get an extra month on your tax. Does that happen in France as well, where you get after you've been employed for a certain amount of time?
You mean getting some money at the moment you leave?
No, if you're in a job there and you've done 12 months, I think you qualify for an extra month's pay, maybe the next month.
Sometimes, yes, it depends. Some companies do that, some don't. Yeah.
All right. So that's interesting. So executive search is more acceptable. What type of rates are charged in France?
Average 20-25. I know the big five still are around 1/3, but I've heard that they go below sometimes. But I've rarely heard anybody doing less than 20%.
Okay, so and how do the UK recruitment companies perform there? I know Robert Walters and Michael Page and S3 all have big offices there.
Yeah.
Are they quite francophone specific in the way that they operate?
I don't really come across them, so I don't really know. What I know is they are big. They have a name, and they're recognized. To be honest, they don't always have a great reputation. Some of them, but I guess like everybody.
Yeah. So. And what's your plans for the future? Are you thinking that you might, because you're at that point where you're through, you're over 3 years in, you've created a really good job for yourself. Are you looking at it like I am at this stage, thinking, how can I turn this into more of a business and less of a job?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. The thing is,
I know a lot of it's the constant thought of an independent operator.
So, sorry, I didn't get.
But so, where you're at right now?
Yeah. Oh, it's the typical. Yeah.
How are you going to get to the next stage?
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Thing is, what I don't want to do is I don't want to hire junior consultants and have a high turnover and these kind of things, which I know a lot of recruitment business owners are going through at the moment, whom I know. And so if I create a team, actually, I want to create really a special forces team, with people who are only top performers. And so, but before I do that, actually, my personal goal is to be a 1 million biller. And so, and once I've done that, I'm working on a system. It's a work in progress. And once I'm there, I think I will write a book actually, on how I started from scratch and went to a 1 million billing. And once I know how to do that, then I can train other people to do it as well.
Can you outline what that system is?
The one to start is the one I described. I think it's great if you want to start fast to use the MPC methodology and start contingent and become retained after 1 year, typically. And then the current system that I work on. So I've been working a lot with somebody called Marcus Kauke from the Sandler Training. I think he's a genius of sales. And so basically, it's really having the right KPIs. To use digital marketing as we talked about, and it's really about discipline. So every morning,
is Marcus from the industry, or is he from general marketing?
He used to be a headhunter. He used to be a headhunter, and now he's a sales trainer.
Okay.
With Sandler Training, which I think is the best sales methodology in the world.
Very good. Well, you'll have to pass his details on to me. I'd love to get him on the podcast.
Sure. Pleasure.
So you're working out. Are you working out a bit of a predictive system in terms of?
That's it.
You'll be able to bring in more candidates and more clients and match them together based on data analytics and social media.
Yeah, I don't use analytic solutions enough, but I know if I do a certain number of calls every day, I'm going to close a certain number of deals every month, etc. So it's really mathematics, right? And so on a daily basis, I follow my KPIs on a monthly basis as well, and I know if I do the right number of calls, etc., I'm going to achieve my goal.
Yeah. How do you think you'll be able to do that when you're doing your podcast and your videos and like that type of stuff starts taking up more and more of your time?
Yeah. Well, I've seen it when I did the first videos. I think you have to work. I start at 8, I finish at 8. I work most of the days, 7 days a week. So it's that's how you do it. But I agree. You have to outsource. You have to probably look at virtual assistants, maybe more resources. That's for sure.
Have you done any of that
actually?
Yet?
So what I did very recently actually is I set up a partnership with an exec search firm here in Paris called Agro Research, which is one of the most well established. It's been created in 1979, and so we work together on some of the searches I work for. So basically, it means that I can benefit from some of their people, and they have a 20 people team here in Paris. So that's what I'm starting to do at the moment.
That makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of us who don't want to scale per head count, and maybe we have more candidates or we might have more clients, depending on whatever your flow is and what your speciality is. It does make sense to build these partnerships and have split placements.
Yeah, it does. And
And do you think so will you be looking to do more of that, will you?
Yes, and also I think the key for me is to increase my fees, basically. So I'm starting to do that now. But now I have minimum fees, and I'm not negotiating on that. And it's easy. I think as a solopreneur, as a solo headhunter, I can do around 20 placements a year. It's difficult to do more if you want to be qualitative. That's my take on it. And so to do 1 million, it's easy. You have to do a 50,000 euro average fee. So I'm far from that at the moment, but this is where I have to go. This is the minimum fee of the big five, by the way. So, there is place somewhere here for somebody.
And by the big five, you mean executive search firms. Is that right?
Yes. Korn Ferry, Egon Zehnder, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. I get serious business envy when you start talking about your fees and percentage rates. When you look at the data, because you do data analytics and AI, do you have a sweet spot within that?
So I started with data scientist position. So this is really the one I'm the best at. And but then the ones where I've done really nice fees are chief data officer positions.
Okay. And have you stayed away from is the analytics stuff more junior, and is AI just a kind of buzzword?
It depends, because there's so many things. Some people call themselves data analysts, data scientists. It doesn't mean the same. So it depends. But yeah, I started to work when I started the company. I worked on really junior, fresh graduate positions. This is something I don't do anymore due to my minimum fee. And yes, I'm going more and more towards the C-suite.
Very good. Yeah. Did you do any research before you jumped in? Because I'm a tech recruiter, and I've flirted with the idea of setting up a tech recruitment business as well. And when I look at the technology stack, I think, oh, data scientists, and that sounds good. Cyber sounds good. There's quite a lot doing development. How did you come to a decision that data scientist was the right one? Like, was there any research that you did?
Yeah, I did. One of the things I saw was it was said to be the sexiest job of the 21st century.
Yeah.
So that triggered my interest.
Yeah.
And then, I was reading, all over the place that companies were struggling to find them, basically. So, and the other thing is, my specialty as an engineer was image processing, which is very, very close to data science. So I said there is really something to do in that area.
Yeah, because they have to be able to code, don't they, data scientists? But they could probably come from an economics background as well, from the analytics side. So they're like a hybrid of really smart people.
Yeah. It is. I agree. I think the basic skill is really mathematics. And then you have different, you also have different types of data scientists. But basically it's people who are good with numbers.
Very good. And you think if you can get up to the million, will you put all the learnings that you put together and write a book on it? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent. That when can we see that in the press?
Not before 3 years.
Not before 3 years. All right.
Yeah.
Well, look, Nicolas, thanks very much for coming on and giving us an insight into life in Paris and the market there.
My pleasure. Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor to be part of the podcast. And if anybody wants to reach me, LinkedIn is the best way, and I'm happy to get in touch.
Well, you're exactly the type of people we want on here who are out on their own, figuring it out, using the best advisors in the marketplace, and building something that you're going to be proud of and that you enjoy doing, that you're passionate about, and that's what we want. So thanks so much. It was great to get to know you.
You're welcome. Same here.
Take care, pal.
Thank
Bye.
You, cheers.
Massive thanks to Nicolas for coming on the podcast. I think if I've learned anything in the past few months, it's if you are going to set up by your own and you're at the start of that journey and you've got a few pounds in the bank, do engage an advisor. He's obviously engaged Roy, and he was able to kind of walk him through a lot of areas that he picked out a niche area. He mapped out who he wanted to work with. Potentially, he then broke down doors through using good candidates. He had a whole process around it, from engaging candidates to engaging clients. And there's loads of people out there that can help you through this point, and can be a bit of a sounding board. I've never done it myself, and I wonder where I'd be if I had have used the skills I had as an IT recruiter and engaged somebody to educate me on all the stuff I actually know now back when I started, but will not know that. So anyway, great wee business he has. I as an independent operator, I really like to hear that there's other ways that we can build our business that's not just hiring another salesperson that we have to manage and have to babysit and have to replace. And that's fine, that model works, but why not why not figure out ways to get more people engaged through media, through technology, working out who in your database wants to move and when they should move and what's the right move for them. And you know, maybe you don't have all the relationships, so you create a split partnership network out there, and you make sure that, you know, you're constantly using everybody in your network to build your business, and not just relying on like hiring kids and throwing them a phone book and telling them away you go. So I think Nicolas and lots of others out there are realizing that they can do this and are proving that. I mean, if he's confident enough to get to 1 million on his own, there's a testament there that it's all out there. So what's stopping you? We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.